I'm Megan Shattuck. I am the NAMI Pasco secretary for our affiliate, and I am with Toni Roach, who is a captain with the Pasco County Sheriff's Office, and is also, what is your official title in regards to C.I.T?
The C.I.T coordinator for Pasco County.
Okay, and so one of your detectives, Detective Reckmeyer, has been nominated as the NAMI Pasco C.I.T Officer of the Year. And so we wanted to touch base with you to get some information on what C.I.T is in Pasco and what has been going on in that area under your leadership.
The C.I.T program is a community concept that originated back in the 80s out of Tennessee, but how we are incorporating it in Pasco County is working with our behavioral health community and the mental health community themselves to have a better response to people who are in a mental health crisis, and hopefully redirecting them away from the criminal justice system to the behavioral health system to get help for their mental health diagnosis. The classes for C.I.T, we work in collaboration with as I mentioned, with a lot of behavioral health partners in the community. We have our Jewish Gulf Coast Family and Community Services, we have Bay Care, we have HCA, we have Chrysalis Health comes in, we have a bunch of different organizations, North Tampa Behavioral Health and Rogers Behavioral Health out of Tampa. They all come in as a part of this 40-hour week-long class to help law enforcement officer better understand signs and symptoms of mental health and how to respond more appropriately to people who are in crisis. And the idea behind that is, again, redirecting from the criminal justice system to the mental health system, but also to reduce the likelihood of uses of force and trying to gain voluntary compliance if somebody needs to be taken into custody for a mental health evaluation, and just not always resulting to hands-on control of a situation and using their skills of communication and talking a person down in order to bring a little bit more control to a scene where they can then coordinate and problem solve for that person for an improved response. We teach this class about 4 times a year, and our municipalities also participate, Newport Richey, Dade City, Zephyr Hills, and Port Richey Police Department.
So it's a collaborative effort across the county.
It is, and we also, equally as important, is we also teach a C.I.T for dispatching class. So we, through NAMI and through our community connections, we often tell our mental health community, when you call the sheriff's office for assistance, make sure you ask for a C.I.T officer. But the other person who's answering the phone, how do they know what a C.I.T officer is? We have been able to implement a C.I.T for dispatcher program about 2 years ago now, and we run all of their call takers, their dispatchers, everybody who works in emergency communication at the county department, they all get this training. This training is a 24-hour class. We've expanded it from 16 to 24, and we work on topics for our dispatchers, same thing, being able to de-escalate people over the phone, try to understand what crisis sounds like, and equally important for them is they have a lot of trauma when they're vicarious trauma when they interact with people over the phone when they're going through some difficult times. We also work really hard for our communications team to overcome that compassion fatigue and that trauma that they could experience by interacting with that person over the phone and hearing some background noises and some things associated with that. So we also do a lot on trauma-informed care.
That's awesome. That's a super important piece of that sometimes doesn't get addressed. So I'm happy that that's being addressed there in all areas. What kind of successes or accomplishments can you identify since C.I.T has been rolled out in our county?
I can say that I've had some firsthand situations where I have been out and actively working with people and being able to talk to them and take my time. That's the biggest thing, is time is on your side. Don't rush situations. Interact with people. Sometimes people just need to vent, and being able to actively use the skills myself, and then observing people that I'm working with use these C.I.T skills in order to de-escalate situations that could have easily resulted in force by law enforcement and would have been justified, but is it really necessary? We've been able to do that. And then from a leadership position, I'm often told about calls for service where somebody has used C.I.T. They'll send me an email shortly after they take the class and tell me that they were able to use the skills right away. Especially our dispatchers, where I was really surprised on getting a flurry of emails so quickly after they take the class on how much it helped them do a better job in handling crisis over the phone. And then the great thing is, not only can you use it at work, but you can also use it at home in your personal life. So it does have some ripple effect in having improved responses to crisis. So it's been very favorable in our community.
And what do you hope for the future of C.I.T. in Pasco? What is your vision for future C.I.T. success?
At this point, my future for C.I.T. in Pasco County is to host one. We have, unfortunately, we have been, as we're doing this virtual, we have not been able to host a C.I.T. class. And initially I wanted to continue to do something with C.I.T, but obviously the risk, we have just so many people that come in to work on this program that there was just so much risk associated with it. And then the thought was, well, maybe we can do an online class. But if anybody's ever done any online training in excess of 2 hours, let alone 40 hours, will tell you that it's probably not the best learning environment. And so my goal for C.I.T 2021 is to actually host a live event. But we're always looking at updating our programs. We often swap out some curriculum that's flexible. We stick with core components, but sometimes we have some flexibility and we may adjust things based on what our needs are. About a year and a half ago, we implemented trauma-informed care. And so we'll kind of have to look at what's going on in our environment and sometimes adjust our courses to deal with what we're dealing with in our community, which could be, you know, more topics on de-escalation, more scenario-based training, some cultural diversity and differences in our community that might help to create a more well-rounded deputy to deal with de-escalation. Everything related to crisis intervention is how to de-escalate and problem solve.
Awesome. And if you could, for those who are listening and for those officers who are out there, and even for those individuals with mental illness who may encounter one of those officers, what is a message of hope that you could share with those individuals?
To give us a chance. If you've had a bad experience with law enforcement, know that that's one experience and hundreds of positive experiences. Continue to teach us. We always need to learn. Sometimes people forget. Police have bad days as well, which I know they'd be like, oh, well, you're not supposed to have bad days. You're here to help us. But sometimes it's hard to keep your personal life out of your work life. But always ask for a C.I.T. officer, and if they make some suggestions for how the scene could be safer for everybody, please consider doing that. If an officer tells you to separate from another person or to go sit in a chair, even if you don't want to go sit in the chair, can you sit in the chair and then we can discuss moving you to another location. But for police officers, it's they want to come in and calm everything down right away. And sometimes I get that can't happen. And so they're learning just as you're learning. And so sometimes it takes us a give and take on both sides for us to come to a common ground on scene, and then we can both go in the same direction towards problem solving and fixing whatever that crisis is.
All
Is that
right.
what you asked?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
All right. Well, thank you, Toni. I appreciate it.
Thanks.